Welcome to the Golden Age of Cardboard podcast, where we remember a time when stacks of cards were held together with rubber bands and Mickey mantles were put in bike spokes. We hope you will enjoy and reminisce as you come along with us as we tell stories about the baseball cards from the Golden Age of Baseball. We will examine the state of the vintage baseball card market and talk to some of the greatest collectors in the hobby. You won't be hearing us talk about any chrome or shiny cards here. Now, to take you on this retrospective journey, here's your host, direct from the shallow end of the gene pool, my son, Mike Moynihan.
Yo, and hello, everybody. Mike here. Welcome to another awesome episode of the Golden Age of Cardboard podcast, where tonight's going to be awesome. So I get a couple of weeks ago, maybe 10 days ago or so, I finally checked my Instagram, which if you guys send me an Instagram message, which is at Baseball Collector Mike, I don't check it all the time. I'm just going to be honest, but I will eventually get to you, and I try to respond to everybody. So if you have a card question, a hobby question, whatever, feel free to send it to me. I am happy to answer as many of those as I can, but I don't necessarily check it all the time. And so I pull up my Instagram, and Mike Bacsik I got a direct message from Mike Bacsik. Some of you may not know who Mike Bacsik is. Some of you might. I'm going to tell you who he is in just a second. So Mike is the color analyst for Texas Rangers television broadcasts here locally in Dallas-Fort Worth. And so I hear Mike Bacsik all the time. He's also a local radio guy here on Sports Talk Radio. And so I hear Mike talk a lot. And I've heard him talk about cards a little bit, especially on the radio. And I'll ask him about this when I have him on. But he sends me this direct message, basically connecting. And through that connection, we start talking and we exchange phone numbers and we get together. I'm like, man, I'd love to have you on my podcast. And he readily agrees. And here we are doing that. So Mike Bacsik played in the major leagues. His dad played in the major leagues, and he collects cards. So it's like, okay. And he's a Ranger. Mike, welcome to the show. What's up?
Yo, and hello. Thanks for having me, man. Yeah, this is cool. You know, in the morning sometimes having a cup of coffee or late at night eating probably shouldn't be eating ice cream and a candy bar or something, but I'll flip on YouTube and see you talking cards. And so it's awesome to be on with you.
Well, when you reached out, I was like, somebody's punking me or something, you know, and like, why would Mike Bacsik watch my content, you know? But you like cards, and that's so cool, you know? So, all right, let's talk about your career first. Your dad was a major leaguer. He played here in Texas. In fact, I have his 77 Topps Rangers card right there. I think that's his rookie card, right?
Yeah, old Comiskey. He has two Topps cards, 77 and 80. And that
80.
was his last year. So Donruss and Fleer weren't in the game yet when he was playing.
Gotcha. And so when did you start playing? For those that are now frantically going to your Baseball Reference page to check you out.
I was drafted in 1996 out of high school, Duncanville High School, if somebody's local from the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And then 2001 was my first year in the major leagues with Cleveland. That's who drafted me. And then I got traded I'll say it, you know, right. I got traded with Roberto Alomar. Sometimes I'll just say that the Mets traded 5 guys for me and Roberto Alomar. But I went to the Mets for a couple years. Then, you know, dream come true. I signed with the Rangers in 2004, make it up with them for a second. And then 05-06, I'm in the minor leagues with Philadelphia and Arizona, and then 07 I'm in with the Nationals in the major leagues. That was my last year in the majors, and then 08 Nationals in AAA. And I would like to say I retired, but the truth is, like 90% of us or more, nobody wanted me to play baseball anymore, and so that ended my career.
Gotcha. So then what led to we'll talk about your career more as we go. I have some questions, but look, you played in the major leagues, so that's pretty awesome. What made you switch to broadcasting? How did that transition happen?
Gosh, it just kind of did. I know that's not a great answer, but so I remember in 1996 turning on radio, and I don't know why I went on the AM dial in Dallas Fort Worth, but I'm hearing this. It's called The Ticket, and they're talking sports. And I believe it was Chuck Cooperstein who calls the Dallas Maverick games on radio now, and he is having a sports talk radio deal, and I decided to call in, and they put me through or whatever. But I was like, man, I really like this kind of talking about sports too, because I'm not just a baseball fan. I love the Dallas Cowboys and the Dallas Mavericks and sports in general. And so as I'm riding a lot of buses in the minor leagues, you start thinking, especially when you get into your mid-20s and you're not established, you don't have like this big league long-term contract, you start thinking to yourself, gosh, what am I going to do if this doesn't work out? Because it is not working out the way I've planned. And so in 2005, I actually interned at 1310 AM, The Ticket in Dallas. And then after giving up, I gave up the home run to Barry Bonds. If people don't know, when Bonds broke Hank Aaron's record, I was the pitcher on the mound in 2007. And I did a lot of interviews after that. And from that point, that's when the other side became interested in me. So I had interest in possibly doing broadcasting, sports talk radio after baseball was over, had no clue when it was going to end. But when I did all those interviews and did pretty good at them, then people started asking me to do more stuff, which was awesome.
That is so cool that you found something you were passionate about as much as you loved baseball and would have loved to probably have a long Hall of Fame type career in baseball. Something else has come along and it's keeping you occupied, kept you close to home most of the time, right? You can be with your family and all that kind of stuff. I know for me, it was knowing my baseball career was pretty much done in college. And it's like, okay, I was thinking like there's two jobs. If I wasn't a financial planner, which I have been for 30 years, so I love my career, but I would either want to be a sports broadcaster or the president of the Baseball Hall of Fame. And so both of those ships have sailed. I guess the Baseball Hall of Fame, they could still call me, but I don't know that they know who I am. So that would probably be a long shot.
You never know. You never know. When I got this job, Mike, with the Rangers, the Rangers had just won the World Series, and I'm on vacation with my wife in Mexico, and we're sitting at the pool looking at the waves, and she says, "What would your dream job be?" And I said, "Well, it would be like radio or TV analyst for the Ranger games, but that's not going to happen." And then 2 weeks later, I got a call from the Rangers asking if I would be interested in being their television analyst. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. And you're in my home almost every night. I will confess that most games I just record. And then if the Rangers, get blown out, I'm like, I don't need to waste my time.
I've wondered that. I used to do the pre and post. Now I'm on it because of being the guy during the game. But I always wondered, I wonder how many people are actually watching this post-game show after after the Rangers have lost 11-2 and it was 7-1 after 5 innings. It's just, you wonder who is sticking around for this.
And look, I consider myself diehard, and yet I don't, it's a lot. There's a lot of games, and I know what's going on. I got notifications on my phone of all the Dallas sports, right? Cowboys, Mavericks, Stars, etc. But you just can't watch it all. But I do love the game so much. And I think that translates well into cards, right? If you love the game, to me, being a collector, and I've collected since 81, like nonstop. And so to be a collector that long, you have to love it. You have to have a passion for it. And my collecting tastes have certainly changed over the decades, right? I don't collect the same thing I used to back in the day. And you kind of evolve as a collector. I've talked about the evolution of a collector, but they just go hand in hand. To me, it's like chicken and the egg. Can you love cards without loving sports? I think yes. I think there's guys that are in the hobby for all the wrong reasons, and God love them, but they don't even know who these players are, and they're just using them as commodities, right? Yeah. And to me, the collector, you gotta love the sport, right? Or sports, period. Probably the sport you collect mostly, but do you think that makes sense?
It makes complete sense. I don't get it. Like, I didn't grow up watching Pokemon. I'm 48 years old.
Right.
I don't care how popular Pokemon gets. If somebody tells me I have to get this card because it's going to be worth 3 times the value in 5 years or whatever, I don't care. I have no connection to that cartoon. I have no connection to these cards. Soccer, for instance. I know the World Cup is coming. I've watched soccer casually. I get it's a great sport, but I just don't really have any interest in it. So if somebody says you have to buy this or buy that, and soccer's I'm like, I don't have a passion for it. So that's why I collect baseball, basketball, and football, because those are the 3 sports that I really have a passion, and I follow the game. So it's really fun to say, man, I'll give an example. Not this last year, but the year before. Man, I fell in love with Lawrence Butler of the Athletics, and he didn't have as good of a year as I thought he was going to have. But it's really fun to then go search and kind of find some Lawrence Butler cards when people don't really care too much about that guy. They're looking for Ellie De La Cruz or whoever it is. And so that becomes, to me, really fun. And I don't get it all, Mike, when I'm at a card show or something and I hear people talking. I'm like, you obviously don't follow this sport at all. But they are wheeling and dealing cards. They're just like, I guess they're using them as like stocks. I mean, I have people like you, a financial advisor. I don't understand the stock market. Not going to try to learn the stock market. I'm going to trust somebody who understands it.
Yeah, and I see it as well every time I'm at a show, and I would say it's an infection in the hobby, like a sickness, so to speak. But the reality is, it doesn't really affect me. So I'm kind of like, okay, I had a 8-year-old kid here today at my house in the card room. His dad and I are friends, and he's been wanting to come over for a while, and because he's heard about this collection, and he brought his 8-year-old son. You know how much fun I had giving this kid cards? Like, I mean, I have plenty, right? So it's like, okay, what do you like? Who do you like? Tell me who you like. Well, he's a Dodgers fan, right? So Mookie Betts, right? So I start pulling bets.
How's he a Dodgers fan?
Well, I taught him about Jackie Robinson today, by the way, which is because I have I'll show you. I got it right here. I have all this stuff out from him being here, but I have my Jackie Robinson autograph here.
Oh man, that is so cool.
And it's from, so these, Mike, you can get these government postcards, right, that have a postmark on them. This is from August 26, 1955. So 55 is a big year for the Dodgers, right? They won the World Series, the only year Brooklyn won the World Series. And so I show him and his dad on Baseball Reference, like, look, we can go to August 26, you drill down, get to the box score. Jackie went 1 for 3 that day with a stolen base and a walk, and he's like, you mean he might have signed that day? And yeah, he might have. I mean, I don't know. That's when it's postmarked, right?
Right.
So, but it is a signature from the Jackie Robinson, Dodgers only World Series winning season. That's cool to me. And teaching this kid, all collectors, I think, start collecting current players that they can watch on TV, right? That just makes total sense, right? It's so logical. So he loves Ohtani too. He loves Betts. Who doesn't love Ohtani? I think he's going to go down. By the time Ohtani's done, top 10 players of all time. Maybe top 5. Like, literally, he's that good, right? And he's doing things that are otherworldly. But he's a new guy, right? And so I want to teach these kids. I have a box of just old commons, vintage commons. And I'm like, go through here. What do you want? Take, because they're all extras for like, take anything you want. And his dad's like, ooh, Pete Rose or Johnny Bench, or these guys, Reggie Jackson, and then I don't have a lot of 50s superstars in there, but I was like, that card's from 1954. And he's like, oh my gosh. And it doesn't matter who the player is, right? It's from 1954. And so the kids just like eyes light up, and he's like, Dad, are you that old? He's like, I'm not quite that old, kid. Like it's this moments like that, times like that. That's what the hobby's about. He's not asking about how much is this card worth. He's not caring about any of that. And that's unique, right? That's not, we see a lot of kids. There's kids today with better collections than most adults, right? You just go, how do you have all these cards? You see,
I don't get that either.
Right. Like, did you rob a bank or something to get this? But so you're collecting, let's get into that.
Yeah.
Did you collect as a player or did you start after?
No, I was an on and off collector. I think honestly, it's going to probably be pretty common. I started collecting in 1986. So the top of the Topps cards, the black border, and I'm pretty much only collecting Topps. I don't really even remember in 1986 if I really knew Donruss and I knew Fleer, but I did in 1987. So 87 is when I go crazy, right? I want everything. And those are 87 Topps is probably my favorite card, just the wooden border. That's when I fell in love with Will Clark. That was the guy that I wanted out of 1987 Topps. Bo Jackson was always really cool to get. And then not many people will be there with me and probably you here. The third guy that I really wanted was Ruben Sierra. I thought he was going to be one of the greatest players of all time.
I did too. He was robbed in 89 of the MVP by Robin Yount, but that's another discussion.
So I get into it 86, 87. I'm really into it through 1991. And then in 1992, so you just start doing my age, I'm entering high school, kind of 8th grade high school. And so I kind of drop out of it, and I'm just not that into it anymore. In 1997, I'm in low A ball with the Columbus Red Sticks. That at the time was low A ball for the Cleveland Indians organization. And I want to say we were playing Piedmont, the Phillies. And at the time, like Jimmy Rollins was on that team. He ends up becoming a great player. He was really good in low A ball too. And Topps came around and they gave us a box of cards, like a box of 1997 Topps cards. And I opened that up and it's just like, bam, I'm kind of back into it. And so that was kind of the restart of being back into it. And so I'm into it for a little bit. I don't know the exact year, but looking at my collection, I would say about 02 or 03, I kind of get back out of it. I'm not that into it now. Also, I'm married. I now, our first child is born in 05. Things start changing. I'm not like making, as much as people think we all make great money, 80% of us, even that we make the major leagues, have to get a job afterwards. It's those top 20% of players that make money that they don't have to work anymore the rest of their lives. I get back into it a little bit in 2011 because in 2010, I'm done playing and I'm watching an Angels-Rangers game at like the end of 2010. And I'm like, this Mike Trout guy's intriguing to me. And I'm struggling for money at the time. I'll always remember this. There was a lot of 40 Topps update Mike Trouts on eBay. And I bid $100 thinking I was going to win it easily. And I lost it for like $101.50 for 40 of those. But I did get some Mike Trouts at the time, bought some Mike Trouts. And then what I was kind of in and out. But then in 2018, I really got back into it because being a Mavericks fan, Luka Doncic got me back into it. I'm like, I'm going to collect. I was collecting a lot of Dirk Nowitzki, by the way. Dirk will be my favorite athlete of all time. Nobody will ever take that. There can be whoever. There can be better players. I get it. But Dirk Nowitzki is my favorite athlete of all time. Got to meet him multiple times. Unbelievable human being, too. So it makes it even better when you know that person's also a good person, not just an unbelievable player. But I get back into it, and I'm collecting Luka. I'm kind of hitting on these, and it's not hard. And cards were not that expensive back then. I think I bought like 40 Donruss rookies of Luka Doncic for $40.
Yeah.
And then I was buying Patrick Mahomes because I signed with Texas Tech. I didn't go there. My wife graduated from there. So I'm buying some Patrick Mahomes and Luka Doncic and Trae Young and some other guys. And I've stayed in it ever since. So that's kind of my card pack.
What about your pops? Was he ever into it at all, or did he just because he would have collected in the 60s or the late 50s through the 60s, maybe early 70s?
Yeah, he said he was. Now he doesn't have any of those cards. That's kind of why these cards are worth what they're worth, is because Grandma threw them all away when he went. I believe he went to Trinity University in San Antonio to play baseball, and I believe when he went off to college, his mom, my grandma, was like, I'm cleaning out the junk. And the junk was, shoe boxes of cards. So he collected, he probably collected late 50s would be my guess. He has an older brother. So he talked about they did have some cards that were kind of mid 50s and then through early 70s.
Okay.
But then he stopped, and then he collects here and there, but not. I kind of buy stuff for him that he thinks is really cool. His favorite team ever was the 1968 Detroit Tigers, because there was no Texas Rangers when he was growing up here.
Right.
So he loved the Detroit Tigers because his older brother loved the Yankees, and he loved Frank Larry, who I've learned about Frank Larry through my dad, who was the Yankee killer. Not you look at his stats on Baseball Reference, they're not that special, but I guess when he always pitched against the Yankees, he did great. So I bought him the complete set of 1969 Topps Detroit Tigers. They're PSA graded, but I didn't really care about the grade, just as long as they didn't look creased or crumbled up or anything. So he could have the 69 set of pretty much all the guys that were on that 68 championship team.
Yeah, it's K-Line, Denny McClain, of course, MVP and Cy Young winner, right?
Yeah. It was fun doing that too, Mike. What's really fun about that is I didn't know much about that team at all. But then I found out this dude named Bill Freehan was a really good player. Johnny Bench was the stud catcher in the National League. Well, Freehan wasn't as good as Johnny Bench, but he was the stud catcher in the American League for a time.
I think he was like a 12-time All-Star.
You kind of find out stuff like that when you do card collecting, which is really cool.
Yeah. So when you first saw yourself on a baseball card, what was that experience like?
Oh man, it was awesome. I mean, the first one ever, I won't say was super awesome, but it still was cool. It was when I was with the Burlington Indians, just rookie ball. They made, I think the company's name was Best, who would make a lot of minor league sets. And so you had the Burlington Indians minor league set. So that's my first ever card, which was cool. But when Bowman in 2000 put me in their set, that was so cool. And I was into cards then. So unfortunately, if there would have been anybody in 2000 Bowman, I know they had Series 1, Series 2. I can't remember which one I'm in, but there's not really anybody that good that ended up being like a rookie that ended up, becoming this super duper collectible guy. But I bought quite a bit of that Bowman and Bowman Chrome stuff from that year. So that was really cool. I hadn't made it to the majors yet, but that was my first ever card where I was like, oh my gosh.
You were one more year and you would have been Pujols and Ichiro, right? You would have been in 01 with those guys. Your first base Topps card, I'm trying to remember. Oh,
I'll let you know if you want to guess. I'll let you guess. But
go ahead and tell me.
it wasn't till 2007.
That's right, the Nationals, right?
And it's so I love my Bowman card. It's a picture of me in spring training because I'm wearing Cleveland Indians gear. Where that all those pictures in Bowman for the most part, if they're putting you in and you haven't made the majors, they're having to get pictures of you in spring training because you'd be wearing your minor league affiliate jersey. So in 07, it's a picture of me in spring training. I'm wearing number 75, which I never wore number 75 for the Nationals, but I did in spring training. Was not happy I got that number in spring training. It used to be, now everybody has crazy numbers on the mound, but it used to be if you got the number 60 or above and you showed up to spring training and that was in your locker, you had already not made the team. You were done. It was like you had to have number 59 or below for them to even consider you. It was almost like a thing. So the pitching coaches and the hitting coaches would have a sense on who is this guy? And it would almost be like, don't worry, he's wearing number 61 or number 75. Don't pay attention to his bullpen. He's going to the minor leagues. So I'm in number 75. And then a guy who I signed with Texas Tech, who had a great recruiting class in 96, he ended up going to Texas Tech. I didn't, was Josh Bard. So the facsimile autograph on there is like a J/B/ and it's like, it's not even my autograph.
Oh, God.
So that's my one Topps card.
Well, knowing we kindled this friendship through Instagram and now we're here talking, for everybody out there, this is the first time Mike and I have talked. Like we're doing this very from the jump with you guys. But I did go buy one of your cards.
Okay.
I saw this and I had to go buy it. And so I hate to tell you, it wasn't that expensive, but that's okay.
Yeah, hey, that's the thing. When people send cards in the mail, I sign it. And I'm like, some of my friends are actually good major leaguers. Like, oh, they're just going to sell it. I'm like, look, if this dude needs 50 cents or $1.50, he needs it. There you go.
I bought that because it's your only top certified autograph. And I love that. I don't care that it's a sticker auto, whatever. But the back talks about you giving up Bonds' home run, right? And so I just thought, is that your signature? That's my first question. Is that your real signature?
Yes. I remember signing a whole bunch of stickers in the off season. And that was the only card they used it for. So I can't even remember how many I signed. It wasn't a crazy amount. I've talked to Evan Carter and Wyatt Langford about how many cards they signed in 2024.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the exact number they said, and they didn't know the exact number, but it was well over 20,000. So just think about that today is, I got Evan, and I love Evan Carter. I love Wyatt Langford. They're good guys too, and I hope they have unbelievable careers. But there's literally up to 30,000 autographed rookie cards of a rookie now.
Yeah.
Especially popular guys where they want them to sign quite a bit of those things. But yeah, that was me. And that picture is me on the mound after giving up the home run. That is a picture of me kind of rubbing up a ball, getting ready, to take the mound again. And the guy that I'm talking to is my shortstop in that game. And that is Felipe Lopez.
Wow. So I bought that card. It's going into the collection. I'm excited to own it. Again, the value doesn't matter. I don't care. I didn't care what it cost. I wanted that because that connects me to you. You see what I mean? It sounds completely silly to people that don't get it, but if you get it, you really get it.
I bought a couple years ago. I was so excited to see this at the Dallas Card Show, which is a pretty big card show. And a guy had for $3 on his table, and I was so excited. I was like, I have to have it. It was, if you follow basketball, you should know this guy. It was a Dell Ellis autographed card. And I was like, he was my first ever favorite player. And, for people who don't know, and I know this is a baseball card deal more, but he was at one point the all-time leader in three-point made baskets. Now, obviously, he's fallen way down the list, but when the three-pointer became a thing, he was the best at it. And he started off with the Mavericks. He got traded for a future NBA referee, and then killed the Mavericks in 1987 in the playoffs. And I remember, like, this is the worst. Like, we traded him for nothing, and now he's beating us in the playoffs. But for 3, I was so excited. That was my favorite card of the whole weekend, was a $3 Dell Ellis autograph card.
Yeah, my 2, Mark Aguirre and Rolando Blackman, were my guys back in the day. Same era, right? And those were the days when my dad was doing, he was the camera, he ran camera under the basket. And I was either his cable puller, so I was behind him, keeping him from tripping over himself back when they had wires behind the camera, or I was the kid. I would sit, my job was to sit under the basket and hold a mic, and a parab mic, and that's how they got the squeaking of the shoes on the court, was me, some little kids under the basket. All of it's all fixed now. They don't need people to do that.
Right.
But in the mid 80s, late 80s, when those Maverick teams were so good, couldn't get past the Lakers. But you and I are just reminiscing, and you guys get to come. That's what we're doing right now. But
I have to ask you a question.
Yeah.
As a kid, could you hear the trash talk? Could you hear like what the guys were saying on the court?
Yeah, that's how I learned how to cuss. Was listen. No, I mean, yes, of course. I got ran into and bowled over by guys all the time as they, go in for a layup, and that was a thrill for me as a 12, 13, 14-year-old kid. Like, that was great. And so, and it was just normal, but there was a strict, no autographs, like, don't even think about it kind of thing. And so I'd be in the locker room, and, I can't even do anything. I can't, I love cards at this point too. Right. So I have cards of all these guys, and I can't get anything signed because I don't want to get my dad in trouble, and, so that was always, but my dad always carried around a baseball when he was doing, he ran high home camera. For those of you guys out there, that's the camera that's in the booth with the announcers. And so my dad would not only work home feed with, back in the day, it was Norm Hitchcock and Merle Harmon, and, Jim Sundberg did a lot of games, and that kind of stuff. And then he would also work away feed. So he'd carry a ball with him. So I have a ball with Mantle and Phil Rizzuto and Al Kaline and Harmon Killebrew. And, he would just always carry a ball around in his backpack, basically, and get it signed by Hall of Famers. And so that's the most cherished thing that I have. I will never sell it. It's not that I think anyone would pay a lot of money for it. I don't care. My dad did this over years because he knew his son liked collecting and liked this stuff. And so those connections are so cool. And so I bought your card, Mike.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you.
Here so I could show it to you before the show, but before we were going to record, but alas, eBay, whatever.
And I don't know, I don't know the age group of people watching YouTube, but if you're of, let's say, around our age, for me, baseball cards got me to know the whole league. Yes, I was watching games on television, but, there were sometimes the game wasn't on television. Nolan Ryan throwing his 7th no-hitter was not on television. Like, too bad. It's not on TV. People got in trouble because I think they ran like the last inning through a Canadian feed because of playing the Blue Jays. But, when I was collecting, I'm sure I would put them maybe not in all the order 1 through 700. I would just put all the Giants together, then, all the Cubs together. And then I would put them in their positions, and then that's how I got to know the guys. Now, my kids don't collect cards. I have 3 kids. Daughter, obviously never into it. But my 2 boys who do play baseball, they were into it for a second. They didn't really love it. It's not like you push it on them. It's either they like it or they don't like it. But they know all the players today from MLB The Show. Right. They play the video game to understand the league. For us, to understand the league, to know the league, because of no internet stuff, it was cards where you got to know the league.
Yeah, absolutely. And we read the backs, and you wanted the guy with all the black and the italics on the back of his card, right? Because that meant he was good. And the all-star cards, that told you who was really good. And just, it was a different time, and not better or worse necessarily. It is what it is. But so you're a Mavericks guy. You love Luka, Dirk. I completely agree with you, by the way. Amazing. Vintage. Have you ever gotten into vintage baseball? How has that looked for you?
Yes, I have vintage. My two best cards are, I want to say they're in BG. I know they're in BGS. And I don't really care about the grade. Like, I'm so happy to have them. I think they're both in 4, is the 1954 Hank Aaron and the 1954 Ernie Banks. I also have Jackie Robinson. I want to say 54, 55, and 56. Obviously, I know he doesn't have a 57 because I have a Roy Campanella card of 57. I thought that was the coolest card. And the reason I got that was when my kid was little, there was just a kid's book called Campy. And it talked about Roy Campanella and just his story of growing up, signing at an early age with the Negro Leagues, and then how he made his way to the Brooklyn Dodgers, and then how great he was, and then the car accident, and how he had to live in a wheelchair. And I'm like, this is so cool. And I felt like this connection reading this book to my children, that I'm like, I got to get a Roy Campanella card. And that 57 card, to me, I don't want to say it's controversial. Some people, like my buddy Dave Raymond, who I work with, he's the guy who's broadcasting the game with me, that I'm working off of. He's not crazy about 57. He loves more like 54, 55, and 56. But I don't know. I love 57, like a Roy Campanella. The Willie Mays is one of my favorites. I do have 2 of those. So I do have vintage. Now that I do have vintage, just not a ton of it. But I love 57, some of those cards. I do hate vintage cards that is just like this.
Right.
I get it. I get that they, taking high photography, the action shot and everything was very tough. But even if they just posed like they were batting or posed like they were fielding, I love those cards. So I do have vintage. I do like them. I tell you what I do like, Mike, and I'm not crazy about. They're way more expensive. Johnny Bench's rookie card, Nolan Ryan's rookie card. I don't have either one of those cards. I don't love those cards. By the way, my dad played with Jerry Koosman on the Minnesota Twins. Jerry told my dad he probably threw away at least 1,000 of those cards, if not more, because people would send them for him to sign and they wouldn't have a return envelope in it or whatever. And he's like, and he didn't care. So he just tossed them in the trash in like the 70s because he just didn't know. So Jerry Koosman probably, got rid of over 1,000 Nolan Ryan rookie cards. I love their second-year cards where it's them by themselves. So I have Rod Carew's first card on his own with the rookie cup. Johnny Bench, where he's squatting down with the rookie cup. I have Nolan Ryan's card, 69 card, where he's, it's like he's finishing a pose. You can tell he's just posing. But, like, I love the first, like, a card I want to get is Joe Morgan's card by himself. I have Mike Schmidt's second-year card. So a lot of guys end up getting their second-year card just because personally I like the way they look better.
That's Pete Rose, same thing. Is 64 is way better than the floating head 63 rookie.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that think that way, Mike. That's not unusual, and I mean that in a complimentary way. Like, I get it.
I like it because they're easier to get because they're cheaper and they're a little bit, they're more affordable. And it seems like, I know there's not more of them, but it just feels like there's more of them because I guess people are more likely to sell that one than the rookie card if they're big time collectors.
Sure. That makes total sense. So is there a card out there that, like, okay, especially in the vintage world, like what would you like to add? Like, what don't you have that you're like, man, I'd really like to get these few cards? Is there anything out there that you kind of think about?
Yes. One I think is gettable
Okay.
that I think not like I'm spending $400 or more on a card is very tough for me to pull the trigger on. I don't know why that number is the number for me, but it's very tough. I do it at times, obviously, having some of the cards I just named. I do it at times, but I don't like spending 4 figures on a card. I get, nervous about that. You just start thinking about other things you have in life that you kind of need to pay for, or you think of future things. I have 3 kids, like college and stuff. So
weddings, yeah.
52 Willie Mays. So the first ever tops of Willie Mays. The reason I say that's doable is because if you get it in, let's just say, a SGC, which I don't mind there. I think their cards look really nice. Like the 52 Bowman looks really nice in an SGC. I'd love to get, for some weird reason, the number 4, because his number was 24. I know that's probably weird, but there's sometimes I'm like, 4 you can get for, at times I see, like, that's just beautiful. And I get that how short printed Mickey Mantle is, but man, when I talk to Eric Nadel, who's in the Hall of Fame, radio broadcaster for the Texas Rangers, he will tell me, and there's differing opinions. He's like, Willie Mays was better than Mickey Mantle. Now that's an opinion. It doesn't mean it's fact, but people have that opinion.
Yeah.
That, hey, I think Willie was better than Mickey.
So I got this one this year at the National.
Okay.
It's a PSA 1.
A PSA, yeah, but that is so cool.
Yeah, here I'll blow it myself up here so you can. So look at how pretty that one is, right?
Man, the centering's pretty darn good. It doesn't look creased at all.
Nope, it's got some paper added on the back, which I don't care. You know, I have that. I look at this side 99% of the time, right? So that's I just got that this year, and it's my best pickup my favorite pickup of the year was this card.
Yeah. Now I'll tell you another one that I love, Mike, and I haven't looked at it in a long time, so I don't know the price of it. And I want to say, I might even have the year wrong, but I want to say it's 1950 Jackie Robinson, and he's kind of standing, kind of posed. He's not like just a picture of his face, and I just think that card is so beautiful. And that's it.
Here, I'll
like
the 50 Bowman Jackie.
Yeah. Isn't that just so, to me, like that? Like, I would love to get that card in, but I haven't looked at it in a couple years. My daughter's she's an artist. She goes to University of Texas, and she's painting like it's either, I think, about a 12 by 16. She's painting that card for me, where it's just that photo, because I just think that's just such a cool looking photo of Jackie Robinson.
Yeah, it's not Jackie's stuff has really become more highly appreciated, right? Clemente, the same thing. Post-COVID, those guys really got a boost. Mays got a boost, huge boost. Just kind of like this, holy crap, why is Mantle 3X and Willie Mays? That makes no sense. Why is Mantle because Mantle's the most expensive card in just about every set, right? And it makes no sense when you think about who the players were and depending on the year and all that. But Jackie stuff gone nuts. That's probably a $2,000 to $3,000 card right now in that.
Okay, but that's doable. Once we get to, my opinion, and I think my wife would agree with this opinion. She'd say you need to lower this number a whole bunch. But it's like, once I get to like trying to spend maybe $10,000 or more on a card, I don't think I'll ever be able to do it. Maybe I will, but that just becomes, some cards I look at and I'm like, they're so awesome. I'd love to have it, but those 2 cards I named, I feel like if I sold some of my stuff that I'm not like that into anymore or whatever, maybe I could get the funds where I would feel like very doable. So,
well, I think a lot of collectors have that, no matter what you do for a living or whatever, we all have that same, okay, life is calling me over here and I've got to do these things. And those are, to me, cards are only ancillary purchase, like they're done with completely discretionary funds, right? You shouldn't be, if you need to pay your water bill, don't buy cards, right? That's not a good choice in life. And if you have a tuition bill to pay, you don't buy cards, right? And so if it's one or the other. And so I think that's wise, Mike. I don't think that's anything but just prudent, you know?
Yeah, I'm going to bring something up to you. I'm going to ask you a question because I've thought about this, and I'm going to get religious here and prayed about it. Is, I believe in Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior, and sometimes I look at cards and I go, am I putting this on too high of a pedestal? I love them. They're so fun to look at. I'm great at buying them, not as good at selling them. But I look at it and go, how do I make sure that cards don't become an idol? I guess would be the best way to put it.
Yeah. I'm a believer as well. And it's a fine line. I'm not going to, now I think, God, yeah, we are going to get religious. So sorry, guys. Not sorry, really, actually. Anything can become an idol, right? Doesn't have to be just cards. And I struggle all the time with, okay, I could be looking for cards on eBay, or I could be reading my Bible or serving at a food kitchen, or, pick your thing, right? Pick anything that has eternal value compared to this, which has only value, has no intrinsic value at all. But I'll tell you this, God's currency is people, right? And souls. And through this hobby, through this channel, through a lot of different things, I've been able to talk about Jesus with people that I would never have gotten to talk to about it. Not that that's an excuse to buy, like, I don't just buy cards just for that, but I think God can use just about anything, not just about, he can use anything for his kingdom and his glory. And I look at it as it's a hobby for me. I'm never not tithing or giving or, all of that comes first.
Yeah.
Before a card is ever bought in this house. And I'm very blessed, right? And I'm blessed with a tolerant wife. I'm blessed with, the ability to get some of this. And a lot of this, Mike, I've owned for a long, long time. It wasn't nearly as expensive when I bought these things. A card that may have cost me $100 then, and it's worth $2,000 now. I didn't spend $2,000 on it. And I'll buy bigger cards for sure, but it's only after all the other things that are really important in life are taken care of.
Yeah.
And that includes things that surround my faith. And so, which is the most important thing to me, period. I would give, if it could save one soul, I would give all this up tomorrow. If it meant one more person was going to hang out with us in heaven for eternity. And so I struggle with it a lot, truthfully. And I think if you're asking the question, at least you're thinking about it, right? You're not just, completely unconsciously spending willy-nilly, not thinking about how else that money could be used, those resources could be used, your time could be used. And so asking the question, I think, is the first step to that. Okay. And there's times you need to have a reality check. Like, maybe I need to step back a little bit. Maybe I need to focus on some other things and put this aside for a minute, make sure I'm taking care of the things that need to be taken care of, and then come back to it. Being a collector doesn't mean you're always having to buy cards, right? That's not the definition of a collector. Somebody that buys a piece of art, they could be an art collector. They might not buy another piece of art for a decade. Does that mean they're not an art collector, right? Or what, they may have bought a Picasso or something and it's sitting in their art gallery or whatever. So buying cards doesn't make you a collector. Appreciating cards, having enjoying what you have, savoring what you have, and just enjoying it is part of being a collector. We're not acquirers, and so again, I far from have this figured out, by the way. It's a struggle that I have. I talk to my collector friends that are also believers often about this topic. I've done videos about this. Every year I give my testimony, or I have somebody on to give their testimony at Easter on my channel. It's if you watch my channel and that you don't at some point recognize that that's the most important thing to me and not baseball cards, then you're not paying attention. But I do love cards. I still do love cards, right? And so I haven't even answered your question because
you've given a great answer. I was listening and learning and looking for guidance. I think you gave a great answer.
Yeah, it's just check yourself, just know and pray about it, right? I mean, but he gave God get all the things in life, whatever your hobby is, right? You like to fish or golf, or you have a lake house, or pick your thing, right? There's things all of us like to do with our spare time or with our discretionary funds. All of those, if used the wrong way, can become an idol, can become something that takes our focus away from him. And so just this can be another one of those things, or it could be something that God gave us to enjoy, right?
Yeah.
And this is all his creation. And so I love baseball, and this connects me to the game. And so I don't abuse it. Don't sacrifice your family for it. Don't any of that. Right. But it's just something each person has to ask. And if you're worried about it, talk to somebody about it, and I'm talking mainly to people out there that if you're struggling with addiction to cards, a lot of people would say I'm addicted to cards. I leave my cards all the time and don't think about them till I get back, or whatever. And I'll do mission trips. And so he's the most important thing, and he gets first fruits of everything. And then what's left is what's left. For me, that happens to be a nice card collection, but that's not because I'm giving up what I should be doing. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So that's a long-winded answer to your question.
Oh, good answer. I wanted to be quiet and listen.
Yeah. So, wow. That got deep quick.
Yeah. That's okay.
It's totally okay. Yeah. When you reached out, I'm excited because you do a radio show too, right? On the Fan.
Well, I'm done with that now. So I did that for 13 years. So, in fact, I played baseball professionally for 13 years. I did radio for 13 years, and I stopped doing that last year because of going more full time. I do a little more than 100 of the Ranger games. David Murphy, if you're a baseball fan, the outfielder for the Rangers, played later in his career for the Angels and Cleveland, but he does the other 50 plus games for the Rangers, and I just couldn't do both. It was going to be too tough with the travel and everything like that. And there was I'd lost a little bit of the passion for sports talk radio. If you're watching, hopefully from wherever you're watching from in Dallas, it shouldn't be called sports talk radio. It really should be called Dallas Cowboys Talk Radio. And then you mix in the NFL. And then if you have time, if there's any time left after talking 70% Cowboys and 20% NFL, then you mix in the Rangers, the Mavericks, college football. But I mean, I had just grown a little bit tired of talking about the Cowboys. Every year's a different year, but every year felt like the same year. And I was just like, why do we I don't care about the third string safety. I just don't. I wish I did. I don't. You know what would be more cool? What if we talked about Jacob deGrom? What if we talked about Corey Seager and Marcus Semien? What if we talked about Shohei Ohtani? It's like, no, this dude's 5'4" and he might carry the ball 4 times for the Dallas Cowboys in his career. I think we need to discuss him for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right. I mean, I get it. That's the job. That's the job in Dallas it's the Dallas Cowboys. But it just became tough because I loved the Dallas Cowboys. I don't love them anymore. I still watch them. I hope they win, but I kind of know what's going to happen at the end of the year. And so that's kind of, there's a little bit of, I just didn't have that same passion, after about 13 years of doing it. And I love talking baseball. I can talk football and I can talk basketball. Basketball is probably my favorite sport. I'm getting a little bit tired of you can take 7 steps in the NBA now, and they're like, it's just okay. That's the new rule. That's okay. So love baseball. I know this is future, but I really hope, because I think 2026 is going to be an unbelievable year for baseball. The World Baseball Classic. And then, I get the Dodgers are great. I think there's going to be a team that knocks them off. I think there's going to be exciting baseball. There's so many great young players in the game to watch. I just hope that all that momentum doesn't come to a stop with a work stoppage. And I know we have a whole year. We have the World Baseball Classic and a baseball season, but that's the thing looming in the background. And I'll talk cards about this. It scares me because I do buy current players. I do like buying current players too. It scares me what could happen to their values if there's not much of a season in 2027.
Yeah. It scares me too. Although I'm 98% vintage. So, but I have I have Ohtani rookies and Soto, go just Judge, right? But that is scary. And you look at guys today, it feels like the hobby is being more embraced by current players. I mean, I did a show with Josh Young a few months ago, and we were at a card shop in Houston, the Houston area, and we on Chasing Cardboard, which is another show I kind of do some things with on YouTube, and Josh
I enjoy watching that too, just so you know. I enjoy watching Ty from Kansas City go around and a lot of times buy people's collection.
Yeah. So what happened on that is Josh was coming down to do this deal, and there was a huge snowstorm in Kansas City. So Ty calls me and said, "Hey, can you be in Houston tomorrow?" And I'm like, "Well, maybe. What are we doing?" "We're going to go hang with Josh Young." I'm like, "Yes." Whatever I had on my calendar got moved, and we drove down to Houston and hit a couple of shops on the way and all that kind of in College Station, etc., and went to see Josh at this deal. He's a big collector, and he pulled an Evan Carter autograph. We opened a box of whatever current tops was, 2025 top, 2024 tops, whatever it was, and he pulled an Evan Carter autograph, and he goes, "Watch this," and he signed it. He goes, "I pulled this, Josh Young," and took a picture of it and sent it to Evan. And it was like a numbered to 50 rookie auto, of Evan Carter. And he, Josh collects his own cards. Evan's a collector. There's guys like Matt Strom. I'm trying to think of some. Mike Trout has other people buy his cards because he's Mike Trout, but he collects, and a lot of guys want their, rookie debut patches. You see it on Twitter all the time, or Instagram, guys trying to find their, cool patches. And
Bobby Witt Jr. is a huge collector.
Bobby Witt, yep, another great one, another great current player. And I've always thought, I'd love to have a show. I'm just a dude, right? I'm just a guy, but opening boxes with current players and just having them, tell me about, Jackson Merrill, or, pull whoever you're pulling. Like, "Oh yeah, that dude has a nasty slider, man. He struck me out 4 times," or, just that kind of interaction, I think would be fun for people to see, and I'm probably not the guy for it or whatever. And there's nobody, to me, that's a good idea. That would be cool. And Topps has tried to do that. The people they use don't know cards. The guys that are, going to do it with
I've
them.
watched those. Yeah. Like Manny Ramirez, Manny's like, I don't know what in the world's going on.
Right. So anyway, I love seeing players get involved in the hobby. It just adds a different dynamic to it. Giannis, he collects his cards,
Yeah. There's more than you think. I know that he's not with the Rangers anymore. Sean Armstrong, I believe he just recently signed with Cleveland. Yep. He's a big card collector. We would talk cards all the time in the clubhouse.
Really?
Patrick Corbin is a big football card collector.
Okay.
So he doesn't really collect baseball, but he is a big football card collector. So we talk football cards. And then some of the guys were opening up Pokemon stuff, and I was like, that's cool. Like, I don't care.
But you do talk about it with players? Did you ever talk about it with Josh or any of those guys?
Yeah. Yeah, Josh is big time into it. His dad is a big vintage guy with the Dodgers, collecting a lot of Dodgers stuff. Yeah, a lot of the guys are into it because, it's kind of gotten them into it a little bit is the MLB debut patch. Because when they make the major leagues, they know that piece of their jersey is going to be in a card forever. And those guys are like, so it's kind of like wait, what's going on here? Because a lot of the guys don't know.
Right.
Because if let's just say, I'll say 80% of the guys, it might be more, that don't collect cards that are baseball players. But then they like, hey, this debut patch, like, okay, so after you're done, we're going to take that off. It's just kind of a sticker. And then we put that in a card. You'll sign the card. And then it goes into a pack. And they're like, oh, and they're like, how do I get that? And then they start. Then it's in Topps Update, and they're like, wait, what's Topps Update? And so then they start asking questions, and the guys that do collect on the team, those 3 or 4 guys, then start telling them stuff and getting them interested. And Topps is around all the time, because think about how many autographs there are in packs now. So they're there all the time getting guys to sign cards so that they can get them back to wherever they pack the cards. I think it's in Dallas, Fort Worth somewhere, and get them, into the factory so they can put them into the packs.
Yeah, most people, Grand Prairie is the home where almost all baseball cards are printed in Grand Prairie, Texas. And most people don't know that, but it's 100% true.
Home of Terry Wood for 1 year.
That's right. So, man, Mike, I feel like I could talk to you for a really, really long time, but we're kind of at the point where my listeners are tuning out. Those great analytics that tell me that this is about the limit of their patience with me, and probably not with you for sure. But dude, thanks so much for being on the show. Hopefully, many conversations to come. Really appreciate it. This was fun, and it went by very quickly because we're having fun talking about cool stuff. So thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, man. That was awesome.
We'll
do it again.
Absolutely. We'll figure it out. I got to have you over. You got to come over and see.
I'd love to.
We'll do that soon. Luckily, you're not far. I've tried to get Josh because all I talked to Josh about was vintage because he's a modern guy, right? So I'm like, dude, your dad, he was telling me about his dad, the same thing he told you, Dodgers guy. I'm like, dude, bring him over because Josh is local. And I'm like, bring your dad over. He will flip his lid over here. I mean, I can show him a Jackie Robinson autograph, signed in 1950. His dad would love it. And I reached out to him on Instagram, and I don't think he made the connection that I was the same guy that was hanging out with him in that shop and doing that show, but that's all right. I'm just a dude that likes cards, right? And loves the sport, and the history of it. That's the biggest thing to me too. So thanks again for being here. And everybody out there, thanks for watching. Let us know what you thought down below in the comments. And if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, thanks for listening. Leave a comment, and we'll talk to you guys soon. See you next time for another episode of Golden Age of Cardboard. See you guys later. Keep collecting.